Itty-Bitty Guards. There was a time when small guards could sneak into the league with pure skill and lightning speed, weaving through defenses like they were built for chaos. Muggsy proved height didn't matter, Isaiah Thomas showed heart could overpower size, and Spud Webb turned doubters into witnesses. But today's NBA is too big, too long, and too relentless for undersized guards to survive without being hunted on every screen. Offenses force switches, and once a tiny guard gets isolated, the possession is already lost. Teams don't want liabilities, they must constantly hide. And analytics only made the problem louder. Now, if you're under 6 feet, you have to be historically gifted just to get a look. And what happens next makes this shift even more drastic. A back-to-basket big man. This used to be the blueprint for dominance. Big men planted themselves on the block, backed defenders down, and controlled the entire tempo with sheer physicality. Hakeem, Duncan, and Shaq built legacies on footwork, patience, and force, turning the low post into their personal kingdom. But the league flipped. Threes became essential, spacing became mandatory, and slow post possessions turned into a luxury teams could no longer afford. Rule changes made camping in the paint harder, and mobile defenses stripped away the isolation comfort zone back to the basket bigs once relied on. Now, development focuses on stretch skills instead of bruising power. Yet even with that evolution, traces of the old archetype still linger. But the next extinct skill shows how quickly the league's priorities can shift. Defense-only guard. For years, coaches treasured guards who couldn't shoot but could suffocate opponents with energy and toughness. Bruce Bowen, Tony Allen, and other specialists built entire careers on stopping scorers cold. But today's NBA is run by spacing, shooting, and efficiency. And guards who can't score are treated like anchors dragging an offense underwater. Teams force these players to shoot by leaving them completely alone on the perimeter, collapsing driving lanes, and turning entire possessions into gridlock. Even elite defenders get played off the floor if they can't punish that disrespect. And with modern offenses firing off threes at insane volume, a guard who can't hit open shots becomes a liability by default. That sets up an even harsher fate for the next disappearing skill. Non-shooting guard. There was a time when guards didn't need a jumper to run an offense. Rondo, early Jason Kidd, and other pass-first maestros controlled games with vision, pace, and pure IQ. But defenders today sag 5 feet off non-shooters, clogging the paint and wrecking spacing before a play even begins. Offenses die when one player lets defenders rest, and analytics prove the math behind that collapse is impossible to ignore. Teams now crave guards who stretch the floor, punish gaps, and force rotations instead of creating bottlenecks. Non-shooters have to transform their games or vanish entirely. Even playmakers with elite passing struggle to stay on the floor without at least a threatening jumper. And the next extinct skill shows how unforgiving the league can be. Short point guard. Short point guards once survived by being fearless, crafty, and impossible to stay in front of. Players like Calvin Murphy and Earl Boykins created chaos with quickness alone. And Isaiah Thomas had an entire season where he looked unstoppable despite his frame. But the modern game is bigger and more punishing, and every pick and roll becomes a spotlight on smaller defenders. Taller guards shoot over them without hesitation, and switching systems expose them nonstop. Offensively, they must finish through length they can't match, and defenses rotate so quickly that crafty tricks only go so far. A short guard has to be exceptional just to avoid being targeted every possession. And the next skill on this list shows another steep decline. Blocks only big man. These giants once terrified opponents by swatting everything near the rim, even if they contributed nothing else. Mark Eaton, Manute Bol, and other skyscrapers made entire careers off timing and intimidation. But offenses stepped outside the paint, spacing stretched defenses thin, and slow-footed rim protectors suddenly became mismatches waiting to be attacked. If a big can't switch, rotate, or defend in space, he gets exposed instantly by modern ball movement. And on offense, teams can hide someone who fumbles passes or offers nothing beyond standing near the rim. Being one-dimensional isn't enough when the league moves this fast. Shot blocking still matters, but it has to be part of a modern package. And what comes next shows how roles continue to evolve. Floor spacer. Pure standstill shooters once carved out long careers by doing one thing perfectly: Steve Novak, Anthony Morrow, and James Jones thrive by drifting to open pockets and firing without a dribble. But the NBA no longer tolerates stationary players who only impact possessions when the ball finds them. Modern offenses require shooters to drive, pass, defend, and stay active instead of camping in one spot. Defenses hunt single-purpose players, forcing them into switches and exposing everything they can't do. With pace rising and possessions accelerating, a player who only shoots becomes too predictable. And the next extinct skill shows what happened when athleticism reshaped expectations. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel. So hit that subscribe button before we go any further. Rebounding Rim Runner. The classic rim runner made a living throwing down lobs and crashing the boards like every rebound owed them rent. Clint Capella, DeAndre Jordan, and JaVale McGee thrived as vertical threats, who sprinted the floor and punished defenses that failed to rotate. But the league evolved again. Big men must now space the floor, handle switches, and defend on the perimeter, instead of just camping near the basket. Rim runners who can't shoot shrink spacing, and defenders simply sag off them, choking drives instantly. Free throw issues made these players liabilities late in games, and coaches started valuing versatility over pure athleticism. Teams still want energy bigs, but they also want skill and adaptability. And what comes next pushes that requirement even further. Small ball 5. There was a stretch where the small ball 5 felt like the ultimate cheat code. Draymond turned it into a science experiment. PJ Tucker proved heart could outweigh height, and teams everywhere tried unlocking that extra burst of speed and spacing. But as offenses stretched wider, star bigs like Jokic and Embiid dragged the league back toward size and forced defenses to honor real post threats again. Small ball 5s struggle to protect the rim against elite scorers, and the lack of size becomes a glaring weakness when rebounds start disappearing. Teams now use small ball lineups sparingly instead of building entire identities around them. The shift didn't kill the idea, but it made the limitations impossible to ignore. And the next extinct skill shows why. Big body bruisers. These players were walking brick walls who survived by carving out space deep in the paint and bullying anyone who dared challenge them. Zach Randolph thrived on strength, touch, and toughness, and Big Baby Davis turned mass into a weapon defenders hated dealing with. But the modern game values mobility, conditioning, and spacing so much that heavy-footed power players struggle to stay in the action. Offenses drag them into pick and rolls, transition exposes their speed, and defensive schemes rely on lateral quickness that bulkier players rarely have. Even if they bring toughness, they can't survive long without shooting or switchability. The league wants strength with agility now, not just force alone. And as the next extinct skill shows, the game grew even faster. Slow, small forward. There was once a celebrated archetype of tall wings who weren't fast, but made up for it with length, vision, and touch. Hedo Turkoglu, Peja Stojakovic, and others thrived by picking their spots and using height to shoot over smaller defenders. But today's NBA is too quick and too switch heavy for slower wings to survive defensive rotations. Fast guards expose them on every drive, and mobile bigs punish them with strength. Speed became essential, spacing demanded lateral movement, and teams stopped giving minutes to wings who couldn't keep up. Even high IQ players got squeezed out when they couldn't defend modern offenses. Stretch forwards still exist, but they move differently now, and the next extinct skill shows how extreme offensive expectations became. Shot chucker. There used to be whole rotations built around players who fired away without fear of percentages or shot quality. Brandon Jennings, J.R. Smith, and other heat check legends thrived on bold confidence and endless attempts, even when the efficiency tanked. But analytics shredded this style by exposing how damaging low percentage volume can be. Teams want smart shots, clean ball movement, and possessions that end with purpose, not chaos. Shot chuckers stop rhythm, stall offenses, and give opponents momentum when their gambles miss. Coaches have shorter leashes, and teammates refuse to watch bad attempts sabotage entire quarters. Players now need efficiency and decision-making to earn trust. Heat checks still exist, but full-time chucking is gone, and the next extinct skill proves the league demands balance. Pure playmaker. The pure pass-first guard once thrived by manipulating defenses, orchestrating motion, and reading the floor like a puzzle only they could solve. John Stockton, Prime Rondo, and early Rubio mastered this craft. winning games through timing and vision instead of scoring. But modern defenses adjust quickly, sagging off guards who refuse to shoot and collapsing into tight formations that choke driving lanes. Playmakers must now threaten defenders with scoring, or else their passing lanes vanish entirely. Teams want guards who blend vision with shooting, not ones who only deliver dimes. Even elite facilitators get exposed if they can't hit open threes. This shift didn't erase creativity, but it forced it to evolve. And the next extinct skill shows just how specific roles used to be. Shaq-Stopper. This skill belonged to defenders, whose entire purpose was slowing down one superstar. Teams carried specialists built to absorb punishment, fight in the post, and make dominant scorers work for every point. Shane Battier studied angles and habits, Tony Allen bothered elite wings, and others spent whole careers guarding giants like Shaq. But today's offenses move too fast, use too many screens, and rely on spacing that isolates mismatches immediately. A defender who only thrives in one matchup becomes a liability the moment the offense shifts. Teams need switching, versatility, and awareness, not a single target stopper. The mission still matters, but not as a full-time role. And the final extinct skill shows exactly how different shooting used to be. Set shot only shooter. Once upon a time, shooters barely left the ground. They planted their feet, squared up, and released the ball with mechanics suited for slower, smaller defenses. Players like Dolph Schayes made careers with a form that would get smothered instantly today. Modern defenders close out faster, wingspans stretch wider, and shooters must rise above contests or shoot off movement. A flat-footed jumper becomes easy prey for switching defenses. And the pace of today's game demands lift, balance, and rhythm on every attempt. The set shot survives at the free throw line and in rare situations, but as a full-time offensive weapon, it's extinct. The league evolved, and this skill stayed behind. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.